everybody, I'm here now in Mexico and I've been traveling for the past couple of years. So I decided to make a video and tell people about what I've learned in these years. So I'm going to give you 8 tips on how you can travel the world for a long time without having to return home. Before we can just pack up and go and travel the world, we have to get rid of all our expenses and save money. The question is, where do we start? If we have been living in a place for a while, probably we have a car, we have a lot of different bills that have sort of stacked up, you know, phone bill, car insurance, bunch of other bills that we probably don't even really think about, but they're still there and they prevent us from saving money. So what I think we should do first, if we have a car, we should sell it, because that's going to eliminate some of our expenses. Not only the car, the gas and the car insurance, but also repairs. What about a phone bill? We actually don't really need a phone number today when we have Facebook Messenger, you know. You can call people and contact people just if you have Wi-Fi. So you don't even really need to pay for a phone bill. What we can also do is stop eating at restaurants and stop buying coffee and drinks at the bar and the coffee shop. Coffee and drinks and food at restaurants is gonna stack up pretty quickly on how much money we spend. That's also one quick way to save some money. So now, if we have got rid of our car and phone bill and we stop eating at restaurants, then what kind of expenses do we actually have? The only thing we need to pay for then is somewhere to live and food. And what you can do is just buy, obviously, food at the grocery store and make your own food. And then make sure that you have a cheap rent, so you don't pay so much money for rent. So if we live like this for a couple of months, then we are able to save a couple of $1,000s if we have a regular job. But now it comes to the apartment that we've been staying in for these couple of months. What are we gonna do with all the furniture? Are we just gonna sell it? Yes, I think we should sell all the furniture. Then we will make some extra money and we will have no baggage. No baggage and no reason to stay in the place where we were living for so long, so we can go and travel. This, I think, for many is going to be the very hardest step, to get rid of all the stuff you have. But it's necessary if you want to travel for a long time. Or you can put it in a storage room. Then you're set, you're free to go. If you don't have an apartment anymore, no stuff holding you back. This brings us to point number 2, what to pack and what to bring. Okay, now if we have managed to get rid of all our expenses and all our shit that we don't need, it's time to pack. So, the most important thing when we are about to travel is to not bring too much stuff. Here is the bag that I usually bring. It's 50 liters, and the best thing about this is that you can use it as hand luggage. You can bring hand luggage for free on every flight in the world. Usually about 10 kilos, which is about 20 pounds. That's the main reason why we should not pack too much, because then we don't have to pay for expensive fees to check our bag, and we don't risk losing the bag on the way. It happens all the time when people check bags that the bags don't arrive to the destination. That's a big problem if you're gonna travel for a long time. So what do I have with me? A couple of shirts, 2 shorts, 1 pair of jeans, 1 pair of shoes, 1 pair of flip-flops, toothbrush, toothpaste, snorkeling mask, sunglasses, a pair of socks, or not only 1 pair of socks, a couple of pair of socks, and what else? I think that might be it. My laptop and my camera. Now we got rid of all our shit from our past life, all our expenses. We have nothing that we need to pay for in the place where we used to live, and the bag is packed with not so much stuff. So where do we go? Well, first we have to find some cheap flight tickets. This is a map that shows the cost of living in the world. What is marked in red is expensive, orange, medium, green is cheap. So we can see that it's expensive to live in Australia, Japan, New Zealand, most parts of Europe, the United States and Canada. But in these countries you can also make a lot of money if you work, because they are civilized countries. This site is called numbeo.com. On this site you can see what things cost in the world. Everything from food to living and restaurants and stuff like that. But now we're gonna look at flights. We're gonna go to skyscanner.com. So what we want to do is to check for flights in one whole month and not a specific date, because then you can find the cheapest flight. And sometimes I also put in that I don't even know where I want to go, because then you can find even cheaper flights. So let's say that I'm in Stockholm, Sweden. We're gonna put in Stockholm, and always one-way tickets. We're always gonna get one-way tickets. To, I don't know where I wanna go yet, depart. Now we have the coronavirus, so we're gonna choose, let's say, November 2020, because, yeah. And then return, no return, depart, everywhere. Here it says everywhere. From Stockholm to everywhere, November 2020, search flights. Okay, where can we go? Poland, Austria, $32, or $12 to Austria from Sweden, $20 to Hungary, Italy, $24. So if we scroll down, we can see that you can even go to Dubai for $60 from Sweden. You can go to Morocco, $67, Hong Kong, $87. Yeah, can you imagine that? You can go across the world for $87. United States, $140. Qatar, Thailand, $200. You can go across the world from Sweden to Thailand for $200, and then we can click here. You see Bangkok. You go to Bangkok for $200. This is the power of looking for flights that says everywhere. Madagascar, $400. You can go almost anywhere in the world for like $400. Skyscanner is the best secret I have for traveling. Skyscanner, and then looking at flights to everywhere during one specific month. Let's say that I booked a flight to Thailand for $218. Then what would I do? Well, first I would have to check and make sure that I get the right type of visas. Most countries in the world let you stay for 3 months, so you get 90 days tourist visa, but then you cannot work. But we'll get into that later. We can also get work visas in different countries if you want to work. The best thing to do is first to Google the type of visa you need to go to a specific country. It's very easy, and usually it comes up a lot of good information and you will know what to do. Let's say that I'm now on my way. What would I do when I land? I usually don't have much planned, because that's the way I like to travel. But I'm going to tell you about some really good apps that you need to have a smooth travel trip. Now we are at number 4, apps and maps. What you actually need when you land in a country and you know nothing. What I usually do is that I use an app called Maps.me, which is a great app because it allows you to see exactly where you are on the map, even if you don't have internet, so it's offline maps. So you can download the map right before you go to the place. I also sometimes consider buying a SIM card so I can have internet. It makes things a bit easier, but it's not necessary to have. Then usually the first thing I do is I go to a hostel for the first day or two. And the reason why I do that is because it's really great to meet some people who have already lived there. They know exactly what's going on, they know exactly where you can buy food, what you can do, other things like that. And maybe even make money somehow in different ways, depending on where you are and what you're doing. Once I've stayed in a hostel for 2 days perhaps and know exactly what's going on in the place, and I got some more information, then I look for maybe an Airbnb where I can have my own place to stay if I like the place. If the place is shit, then sometimes I take the bus and go somewhere else. Where you find hostels is an app called Hostel World, where you can usually find hostels for between $5 to $25 per night, depending on where you are in the world. So Hostel World, and then I sometimes use AIRBNB or Agoda, which are different apps that you can use to find somewhere to live. I know some people also do something called Workaway. I've never tried it, but it's a way to get free accommodation and sometimes food also, in exchange for working maybe 2 or 3 hours per day. So before, when we stayed in one place, we had perhaps a car and all these other expenses that I was talking about earlier. We don't have those anymore when we're traveling. All we have to care about now is somewhere to live and food. So those are the only 2 expenses we're gonna have when we travel. And if you wanna go on trips, of course, like bus rides. But again, like I was speaking about earlier, I think it's a great idea to make your own food and not go out and eat at restaurants so much. If you wanna stretch your travels as long as possible and not have to waste your money really quickly, you know. Then, eventually, if you do nothing, there comes a problem of not having money. So, unless you work from your laptop online, then you have to find an employer somehow. There are different countries in the world where you can get different types of work visas. For example, Australia, you can do working holiday, New Zealand, Japan, Canada, I think Singapore also, and that's actually a great way to do it if you need money. Go to those countries, because those countries are also civilized, so you make really good money there. And then you can take the money that you made and go to a cheaper country and live there, where it's probably around 4 times cheaper to live. A good way, if you need to work also, to find out what people are doing, is to go to a hostel where you have some backpackers, for example, and then you can ask them what they are doing, what type of work they're doing, because most people that stay in hostels, they are backpackers, so they already have all the answers to your questions of what kind of work you want to do if you're not able to work from your laptop, for example. I will put a link, also a couple of links in the description of this video of the countries where you can get the work visas, and also the apps that I was just speaking about, the apps and everything else that's of value. Now we're coming to tip number 6. What are we actually gonna do in the place? How do we find out what there is to do, what we can do? What I usually do is that I go out on the street, or I find some tourist information office. I go there and they usually have all the information of trips and nice places to see in the area. But they're gonna try, of course, to sell you a really expensive trip, which I usually never do. Once I have all the information and I know about all the nice places in the area, then I, if possible, rent a scooter so I can go around on my own or with some people that I've met, or I take a bus to all these places, which will be much cheaper. I don't really like to go on guided tours because they are usually really expensive and you can't really do exactly what you want. You have to be in a big group with people. You can't just run around and do exactly what you want. So that's one really great way of knowing what to do and not having to pay for expensive trips. Just make your own trip and use the map that I was speaking about, Maps.me. Use your offline maps. You also have directions on those maps, even offline when you don't have internet. Now we come to number 7. What to do if everything fails. Let's say that somehow everything goes to shit. We run out of money, we lose our credit card, we're totally screwed. What we can do is always go back to our past life, where we stayed, where we know exactly how things work, where if we need to work, then we can get a job, for example. But most of the time, in my experience, I've always found ways to make it work. I've been traveling for so many years now, just traveling around, and I always came up with something to do. If we go, for example, on a bus, we should never ever leave the bag out of sight. Always carry it with us. Never ever check a bag on flight, for example. Then you also risk losing it. And if you are in a hostel, for example, never ever leave your stuff out of sight. Always lock it in somewhere. Never even leave your bag in like a baggage room area. It's a really, really bad idea. Here comes my last tip, number 8. Don't be afraid. I think we should not be afraid to just go and travel, because like if we just worry about the future all the time, then we're not going to be able to live in the moment and have a good time. So I think we should just not be afraid. We should just go and see what happens. And what I've learned also is that most people in this world are nice people. You hear so much shit on the news about how it's so dangerous in certain countries, but I don't think it's true. What I've learned is that in more poor countries, that's where we have the nicest people. The Philippines or Vietnam, Indonesia, where people are super, super, super nice. Should not be afraid to just go around and travel. It's really, really fun, and I think it's something we're gonna look back on when we are old and be really, really happy that we're not afraid to just go around in the world and see what happens, you know. If you like this video, or if you got any type of value from this video, please leave it a thumbs up, and also let me know in the comment section which tip was the best tip, and if you would just ever pack up a bag and go and see what happens. And also consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.